been in show business since I was 14. They're trying the whole time, they're trying to convince me I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication.
What do you think about them accusing Diddy of having cameras in his house so he can record celebrities and politicians and use it as blackmail?
I firmly believe that's true because in that sector of people, a lot of them practice Scientology.
Why didn't they ask Leah Remini? She's a little more credible. But then again, she might have been able to pull some of their cards because a lot of them motherfuckers is involved in that Scientology bullshit too.
We all know there's different treatment for celebrities.
Well, especially in Scientology, right?
No.
It's highlighted.
It is like nothing you could ever imagine. It is, so when people say Tom doesn't leave because they have information on him or John, that's not the reason. The amount of power they receive from this church is like nothing in Hollywood.
So some new reports recently surfaced that Dave Chappelle was allegedly targeted by the Church of Scientology with help from Diddy after turning down that $50 million Comedy Central deal and flying to Africa. Apparently, this might have been part of a much bigger plan to either recruit him or shut him up. And now some sources are saying this goes way beyond just religion or celebrity circles. This is about control, blackmail, and keeping the industry's biggest names in check. There are long-standing rumors that Diddy's freak-offs were used to trap celebrities and even political figures in shady situations and gather dirt on them. And if that sounds familiar, it's because similar claims have been made about how Scientology operates too. Multiple ex-members have come forward over the years saying the church uses personal secrets, surveillance, and even threats to keep people in line. But here's the thing. Many believe Diddy isn't the one pulling all the strings. Some think he's just a middleman for even more powerful people behind the scenes. The same names and companies keep coming up, from Hollywood insiders to elite crisis PR firms, and they all seem to connect in weird ways. So is this all just a coincidence, or was Dave Chappelle right to walk away when he did? Let's dig into it.
I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you. I was afraid,
But you were stressed out. That's why.
There's no question. But it's very stressful for someone to constantly walk behind you and say, you're insane.
Okay, let's start with the rumors about Diddy and his possible links to the Church of Scientology. Diddy's been part of the Hollywood scene for a long time, working with big-name actors, producers, and agents. Since the 80s, Scientology has been deeply connected to the industry, especially among powerful people. So it's likely he's crossed paths with them or has been around their PR circles. There have also been reports since the 2000s that Scientology was trying to bring in more black celebrities to improve its image, especially rich, well-known entertainers. And here's something wild. Rumor has it they even tried to recruit Dave Chappelle after he turned down that $50 million deal and went to Africa. Some online theories claim Dave became a target for certain Hollywood groups when he tried to break away from their influence, including both Scientology and people linked to Diddy. One old site, ChappelleTheory.com, even claimed a secret group of powerful black leaders called the Dark Crusaders pressured Dave to fall in line and supposedly even threatened to go after his kids. Now, remember when former ex-worker Jonathan Adi, who said he got paid to join Diddy's freak-offs, claimed that Diddy was in something called the Boule or the Black Illuminati, and that he had ties to powerful political players through his lawyers Mark Garagos and Ben Masalis? Well, now some folks are putting the pieces together and saying this goes way beyond just Diddy.
How do I know this?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. How do you know this?
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people. Okay, I'm from Africa, so I'm not a racist. I had settlement with Sean, okay, and he belongs to that agenda. That's why he's so famous. They land all the contracts.
As for Diddy and Scientology, he's never come out and said he's connected to them, but the fact that he hangs around well-known Scientologists makes people curious. He's been in the same social and work circles as folks like Will and Jada Pinkett Smith, who've both been tied to Scientology in different ways. For example, the Smiths started a school called the New Village Leadership Academy that used a learning method created by Scientology. Will said they just wanted to reinvent public education and make learning fun for kids, but the school was quietly shut down after parents found out it was linked to the Church of Scientology. It turned out that a lot of the school staff, like the director of learning, director of qualifications, and artistic director, were all Scientologists. Plus, the school's website talked about study technology, a teaching method created by Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard. Now, Jada has always said she's not a Scientologist, even though she's admitted to studying Dianetics and using Scientology-based methods like study tech in her education projects. But former members of the church have alleged they saw her at Scientology centers many times, especially the Celebrity Center in LA. Actress Leah Remini, who left Scientology and now speaks out against it, spilled some tea in her book Troublemaker: Surviving Hollywood and Scientology, and said she used to see Jada at the church regularly. Leah also told a strange story about a night at Tom Cruise's house with the Smiths, where Tom supposedly made everyone play a weird game of hide and seek. At first, I thought he was joking, Leah wrote, but no, he literally wanted to play hide and seek with a bunch of grown-ups in what was probably close to a 7,000 square foot house on almost 3 full acres of secluded land. According to Leah, she refused to take part in the game. But then Tom approached her and said, well, good, so you're it then. Leah also later talked about this bizarre experience in an interview with the Daily Beast and said that Jada was definitely a Scientology member at one point. I know Jada's in. She's been in Scientology a long time, Leah said. I never saw Will there, but I saw Jada at the Celebrity Center. They opened up a Scientology school and have since closed it, but Jada, I had seen her at the Scientology Celebrity Center all the time. Then there's Jamie Foxx. He used to openly talk about going to Diddy's parties and even said he recorded some of them. But then out of nowhere, he suffered a strange medical emergency and was in a coma for months. And a lot of people have been speculating that Diddy might have had something to do with it.
There has been negative propaganda put out about me that's not true.
At that time, Puff was the biggest guy in the world. You know, you couldn't even get in this party. So the way I would get in this party is I show up with a camera.
Puff, yo, you gotta let me film this, the whole thing. We need to document this, Playboy.
Puff is there, and it's all about him. And I'll never forget, he got mad at me.
So Jamie Foxx suffered a very serious medical emergency that landed him in the hospital.
Yo, Fox, what? Puff's in there. So it's kind of, I'm like, damn, this shit is crazy, man, huh? So what I did was, I would show up to the party in my little town car. This town, you know, I grabbed a town car so I could skirt. Puff the SUVs and the Bentleys, the whole night. He get out, I get out too with a camera, the big Canon. Like, yo, Puff, I should document this shit, right? Yo, what's up, Playboy? what you talking about? I said, no, I should get this, man. You, Fonz, for the whole nine. He says, yeah, let him through. Excuse me. So I get the, but at that time, it wasn't like the little camera y'all got in. It was the big intrusive Canon. I had a battery pack. Hold on, man. Let me change the pack. Put my light on here. Do that again, Puff. Do that again. I missed that one. Do that again. Put the pack. So I started following him.
Also, let's not forget that Jamie used to date Katie Holmes, who's the ex-wife of Tom Cruise, who is considered the most powerful Scientologist in Hollywood.
Oh, you know what? It's something that has helped me incredibly in my life. Yeah. And I've been a Scientologist for over 30 years. Yeah. And it's something that, as you know, without it, I wouldn't be where I am. Yeah. You know, so it's a beautiful religion, and I'm very proud.
And Scientology's power in Hollywood is no secret. They've got tons of celebrity members and are known for using loyal insiders and tough legal teams to protect their own. So if Diddy has even a loose connection to them, it's not too far-fetched to think those same tactics could be used to help cover up or deflect any scandals tied to him. Most recently, it came out that the Church of Scientology protected actor Danny Masterson for years after he raped 2 women who were also members of the church. Masterson, a Scientologist himself, was found guilty of raping the women in separate cases between 2001 and 2003. But this was allegedly covered up for 2 decades until finally in September 2023, he was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. And guess who's one of Danny's closest friends? Ashton Kutcher, who's also faced questions about his ties to Diddy. When Danny was charged, Ashton, with his wife Mila Kunis, wrote letters to the judge asking for a lighter sentence. Ashton even called Danny a role model with exceptional character. But apparently, Ashton and Mila didn't realize that court documents are public and anyone, not just the judge, could read them. That's when they shared this bizarre apology video where they both looked irritated, almost like they were reading from a script. And at one point, Ashton said the letters were meant for the judge.
A couple months ago, Danny's family reached out to us and they asked us to write character letters to represent the person that we knew for 25 years so that the judge could take that into full consideration relative to the sentencing.
The letters were not written to question the legitimacy of the judicial system, or the validity of the jury's ruling?
They were intended for the judge to read.
In the end, Ashton said he and Miller are sorry if their letters upset anyone, which basically means they're not really sorry at all. But there's more. After Ashton and Mila stood by Danny, another one of his accusers, Chrissy Carnell Bixler, came forward and suggested that Ashton is hiding something and even hinted that Mila might be a victim too. Bixler wrote, "Dear Ashton, I know the secrets your role model keeps for you, ones that would end you. Did you forget I was there? You were on speakerphone that night you called Danny on February 21, 2001. I heard everything. I heard the plan. In my opinion, you're just as sick as your mentor." Bixler then addressed Mila saying, "I pray you begin to process what you experienced as a child on that set. I also know what happened in Toronto and after. Question if that's what you view as a normal relationship with a big brother figure. Then I feel very sad for you and I hope you consider getting into therapy." Now, as far as we know, Ashton hasn't officially joined the Church of Scientology, but he's been linked to other strange religious groups. Fans found out that Ashton practiced Kabbalah and has apparently been a member of the Los Angeles Kabbalah Center for years, and the Kabbalah Center has been called a cult by several experts, including cult specialist Rick Allen Ross.
Benefit the Bergs. So this is an organization that has a long history of bad press, complaints, and allegations that it is a destructive cult.
The Kabbalah Center is apparently pretty similar to Scientology, so if both Ashton and Danny are involved in cults, it makes sense they'd cover for each other. Now, going back to Diddy and his possible ties to Scientology, former celebrity bodyguard Big Homie CC claimed that Diddy learned the blackmail tactics from his Scientologist friends in Hollywood.
What do you think about them accusing Diddy of having cameras in his house so he can record celebrities and politicians and use it as blackmail?
I firmly believe that's true because in that sector of people, a lot of them practice Scientology. And Scientology, that was their thing. They would get people in compromising positions. They'll hold that footage over their head and get them to agree to things. I think he one of them Scientology people, bro, because that's probably where he got that from. A lot of powerful guys operate like that. So the things I'm seeing with him, it all makes sense.
And then Jaguar Wright also chimed in, suggesting there's a link between Scientology and the rumored secret society of powerful Hollywood elites.
Why didn't they ask Leah Remini? She's a little more credible. But then again, she might have been able to pull some of their cards because a lot of them motherfuckers involved in that Scientology bullshit too. That's LA. Right into the corner where Biggie was. I was just there. Literally. And that building, it's this big, gaudy, Masonic looking thing. You know, it's all right, architecturally wise. But what gets really interesting about it is when the sun goes down, they turn the lights on, blood red, pure blood red. The whole building glows, pure blood red. I don't know, man. It just feels disturbing to me. You put this thing up that looks like some kind of Masonic monument where Biggie Smalls was to that. And at night, you thought that the color should be blood red. I don't know.
You spoke about Scientology.
Yeah.
Does that have to do with anything with the Illuminati, or is that this separate entity?
They're separate entities, but they work in tandem.
Right.
They spy on each other's people for each other.
Right.
You know, if they don't want to make it look like they're stalking one of their, you know, defectees, they'll ask somebody from TMZ to do it for them. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that out loud, allegedly. Harvey. They farm it out, make it seem like it's just paparazzi stuff when they're actually doing investigation. And Scientologists, they're relentless. A lot of people farm out their gaslighting work to them for a profit. That's LA.
And you don't need to be a conspiracy theorist to see that both Diddy's alleged control tactics and Scientology's known methods share similar ideas: isolating people, manipulating them mentally, watching them, pressuring them, and using fear to keep them loyal. Scientology cuts people off from what they call suppressive persons, which means anyone who criticizes the church, even family members, and members are pushed to completely disconnect from anyone who speaks against Scientology.
Do they try to take things out against you? If you leave the church or you speak out against, what do they try to do? Do they try to suppress you?
They have a policy called fair game.
that they claim has been canceled, and they in fact did issue another policy that says fair game has been canceled. However, there's another policy that says, however, dealing with suppressive people remains the same. Dealing with suppressive people means to go after them, try to destroy their lives, try to find any crimes they've committed, expose them hard. You can lie about them. They have Scientologists picketing in front of people's houses going, don't trust your neighbor, implying that he's a sexual deviant. They go after your jobs. And when that doesn't work, they go after your family.
As for Diddy, Cassie described in her lawsuit how he started cutting her off from her friends and family when she was just 19. She was reportedly watched, controlled, and kept close to him, which are classic patterns of grooming and coercion.
So I wanted to get us all together so we could get this, everybody can hear from me how focused and excited I am about the project. I wanted, Cassie to, everybody to meet Cassie. If y'all don't know that. And hear the story directly from Mao. And then really get down to some business about, just so we can be on the same page of what the plan is, as far as from Tommy's concerned, and from where we're concerned as also a label.
So in both of these cases, the perpetrator becomes the only source of validation or safety for the victim, which is why it's so hard for them to leave. And then Scientology also uses something called auditing to exploit emotional weaknesses, making people see their own trauma as a personal failure or reactive mind. Basically, they're taught to doubt their instincts and follow the church's teachings. Here's a promo video for their official YouTube channel where they try to sell auditing as something that can help you handle areas of distress.
One of the fundamental principles of Scientology is that a person can improve his condition only if he is allowed to find his own truths about himself. In Scientology, this is accomplished through auditing. Auditing is the process of asking specifically worded questions designed to help you find and handle areas of distress. This is done with an auditor, meaning one who listens. An auditor does not offer solutions or advice. They are trained to listen and to help you locate those experiences that need to be addressed. But some experiences are so deeply buried within the mind, they are not easily recalled. The auditor helps you pinpoint these with the aid of an e-meter. When you think of something that has upset or stress connected to it, this shows up on the meter. Your attention can now be directed to that thought. Through auditing, one is able to look at their own existence and discover the past experiences that are holding them back against their will.
Now with Diddy, multiple victims have said he would use similar manipulation tactics. First hurt or degrade them, then shower them with gifts and attention, expecting gratitude in return. And this is a classic example of trauma bonding. And then there's also the issue of control through money and financial dependence. In Scientology, members often spend large amounts of money on something called the Bridge to Total Freedom, which is their step-by-step guide to achieving spiritual freedom. As they progress through the ranks, they're asked to pay even more, making them financially and emotionally dependent on the church.
Normally, the beginning courses are like $50. Not really expensive things. It's not committal. You don't have to sign your life away. When you finish that course, then you go and see the reg, basically a salesperson, who then goes, all right, cool, this is the next thing you need to do.
As for Diddy, he would create dependency in his victims by offering luxurious gifts, lifestyle perks, and career opportunities, only to use them against people later. And some victims were allegedly paid off or silenced by Diddy and his co-conspirators with NDAs and hush money.
We want to hear those names, and we want to be assured that there's not hush money agreements going on, and that he's not simply dangling the idea that he's going to drop these names before he has the opportunity to reach a settlement.
Yeah, I mean, on Fox News, their lawyer Brian Claypool said if Combs doesn't testify in this case, he's dead on arrival. Would you concur with that?
Testimony is something that I guess it has only some value to it, because of course he's going to deny it if he were to testify. I think what the case really comes down to is the corroborating evidence.
And then, of course, there's the whole issue of blackmail, which many think is at the heart of the Diddy case. Scientology uses something called knowledge reports and blackmail to keep members silent, and they reportedly use sensitive information from auditing sessions to blackmail members.
Andrew Morton, the man who stripped bare Princess Diana's private life, then Monica Lewinsky's, is about to release his new book about Tom Cruise. It features extraordinary claims about Scientology's #1 recruit and his second wife, Nicole Kidman, with the release of this new Andrew Morton book, it makes an extraordinary claim that Nicole, the information she gave out while being audited in the Church of Scientology is being used to blackmail her. Is this plausible? Is this possible? How does this, what do you make of these claims?
The nature of auditing is such that you're encouraged to reveal all of your deep, dark secrets and things that may be incriminating or embarrassing. And these things are all written down, and these files are kept permanently.
Now, as for Diddy's rumored blackmail scheme, people have already compared the situation to Jeffrey Epstein's case. Epstein reportedly had dirt on everyone, celebrities, politicians, you name it, and was running a dark blackmail operation behind the scenes. And as for the motive, well, I can't get into all the details here because you know YouTube will take this video down in a heartbeat. But if you look into Epstein's connections and the role his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell and her father Robert Maxwell played, you'll start to figure out who Epstein might have been working for.
Will be very few. Robert Maxwell was a newspaper owner, an entrepreneur, and an all-round crook. He plundered the pension fund of his newspaper and deprived thousands of pensioners of their life savings. He was a con man, and that's why he got on so well with the intelligence services. Whole books have been written about him, but I've only got time here to talk about his intelligence connections. He was born in Czechoslovakia before the Second World War to an Orthodox Jewish family, and he escaped the Nazi invasion, got to France, and from there joined the British Army. He did very well in the British Army and rose to the rank of Major. Just after the Second World War, his knowledge of languages, and it said that he spoke about 8 languages fluently, was used by the British Army and also British intelligence. But at some stage he also started working for Israel, and I think these days we would class him as an agent of influence. As a con man, he used his connections to whatever his advantage was, at the same time trying to please his 2 masters. Sometimes it's said that he was also working for the KGB, but in fact, if you look at his work, it's more likely that what he was doing was just using those contacts to establish a bridge, mostly for Israel, but also for Britain in certain missions. Now, the key thing about him is how he died. In 1991, his business empire was collapsing, burdened by debt, and he was also being quizzed about his connections with Israel. His naked body was found that November floating in the Atlantic Ocean. It was said that he'd had a heart attack and fallen off of the side of his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine. But there was a story going around at the time, and I can only call it a very well-informed story, that what actually happened was that Mossad paid him a visit that night, and he was given an offer to step off the yacht and end it all before inquiries went any further.
As for Diddy, it's rumored that he might have been using the same tactics as Epstein, with his freak-offs possibly being part of a bigger, darker blackmail operation. There's speculation that Diddy was bringing big names to these parties, getting them involved in shady situations, and using that to manipulate them. But many believe Diddy was more like middle management, with even more powerful people behind him pulling the strings in this alleged blackmail scheme.
In order to understand this lawsuit against P. Diddy, you need to understand the history of blackmail. A lot of people in the comments are misunderstanding why rap music is so anti-gay. And a lot of people understand the ties of Israel and the Mossad to sexual blackmail by Epstein, but a lot of people don't realize the ties of sexual blackmail back to the invention of sexual blackmail and the Jewish mob. So if you don't know what's going on, Diddy, one of the most influential people in the rap industry over the last 30 years, just got served this court case that alleged all kinds of crimes, including murder and drugs and prostitution, but especially having all of his homes wired with cameras and hosting parties with underage girls, rappers, label executives, celebrities, politicians, and collecting blackmail on tons of important people. Like, we're talking Jeffrey Epstein level of operation, but in the music and entertainment industries. But the thing about a court case is that we're only getting the allegations that are in that case, and they're only relevant to what that defendant saw and experienced. And so the bigger picture is not filled in directly. You have to kind of understand the history of this stuff and what each thing might imply about the bigger picture. And that requires an understanding of the history of this stuff. And it's not complicated, and it's a wild story. So, the FBI was founded by J. Edgar Hoover. He actually was the head of the Bureau of Investigation, the BOI, before the FBI was even invented back in the 20s. And he served there for 11 years. Then they invented the FBI, and he served as the head of the FBI for 37 years, totaling 48 years leading what was more or less the FBI. So we're talking like all the way from like the Great Depression through World War II into like the 60s. Like through the 60s music revolution into the 70s. All of that time period, the FBI was led by the same person, and he was one of the most corrupt government officials in all of US history. And understanding the state of organized crime and of law enforcement in America is impossible if you don't know about J. Edgar Hoover. And understanding the nature of sexual blackmail is impossible if you don't know about Meyer Lansky, who was a boss in the Jewish mob back in the 30s, 20s, like the Prohibition days and so on. Meyer Lansky, this Jewish mob boss, basically invented the concept of sexual blackmail. And he did it by sexually blackmailing J. Edgar Hoover, the guy who was explicitly supposed to be taking guys like Meyer Lansky down. The Wikipedia articles are sanitized, but basically Meyer Lansky had a photo of J. Edgar Hoover using his mouth on his main assistant, Clyde Tolson. Realistically, it was his boyfriend. They were a couple. But then, once Hoover was blackmailed, he was like, "F it, how much worse could it get?" And so he started hosting blackmail parties in collusion with these mobsters and inviting all sorts of important people to these blackmail parties to collect his own blackmail. This all happened in what was called the Blue Suite at the Plaza Hotel. And it was basically a bunch of male cross-dressing orgies all caught on camera for like a decade or more. And because Hoover was already blackmailed by the most powerful gangsters in the world, he just went and hosted them, and everybody got blackmail on everybody. Back to our boy Diddy, who founded his record label when he was only 24 years old, became one of the most successful record labels of the time. He was able to do that because he was financed and supported by his mentor, who just happens to be gay and rich, and Jewish, just like Meyer Lansky was. And at the time, he was one of the most influential men in the music industry. He'd managed all kinds of the biggest name artists that you've ever heard of. And he found this guy, Diddy, on the up and up in one of his companies, who we now know from this lawsuit and the other lawsuit filed by his ex-girlfriend, Cassie, which is horrific, disgusting, not a good read. We know that Diddy has some real effed up sexual proclivities, as well as just generally probably being at least gay or bi, one of the two. So Clyde finds this guy with questionable morals, questionable habits, and ready to go fucking crazy whatever. Like, he's willing to shoot people. He's willing to launder money. He's willing to do crazy drugs. He's willing to do basically anything. This is just me speculating on his motivations, but mentored Diddy and brought him up and elevated him to a record executive by helping him found his label, Bad Boy Records. That was Clive's move. He did that. And then Diddy, along with a lot of help from a lot of other people all around him, proceeded to do 30 years worth of operations within the rap industry and promoted artists that seem to have been ensnared in it, like Usher, for example, like Meek Mills. Hell, even Justin Bieber is like directly in this storyline. And so what you wind up with is a rap industry, a music industry that is full of people that are creating the types of music that the people above them, that the people that hire them, that the people that manage them want them to make. They're all terrified of stepping on the wrong toes or getting out of line or doing what they're not supposed to for one blackmail reason or the other.
And if all this wasn't crazy enough, there's another link to the Church of Scientology here, because Epstein reportedly hired a PR crisis firm, Citric & Company, which also works for Scientology. So yeah, the more you look into it, the crazier this whole thing starts to seem. Between the rumors that Dave Chappelle was approached by the so-called Black Illuminati with ties to top Scientologists, Diddy's connections to known Scientology members, and his alleged blackmail network, it might all sound like some wild conspiracy. But at the end of the day, you can look into it yourself and decide if it's just a bunch of coincidences or something more serious going on. In the meantime, let me know what you think about the links between Diddy, Scientology, and the powerful people who might be behind it all. Leave your comments below and stick around for this next video.